mentored by some very special, really neat men in my career journey that would lead me and open the doors in a way that we're trying to do now for many other people. So I started out basically as like a bean counter in the industry, and just worked my way up and started calling on OEM accounts in the industry, and then I found my passion with distribution, where I've stayed for many years.
So when you hear women in electronics, so explain to folks what that is, and tell us a little bit more about the business and the industry you work in. So what does that mean exactly? Is that tech? Is that components? Is it software?
So the electronic component industry creates the technology behind a lot of electronic equipment you see now. So it's the components that put together on a circuit board drive the technology. So it's really our industry that's very innovative and is creating all the new developing innovation you see. All the now we have chairs that can do different things, and we have all kinds of electronics and everything you see now. So what we do is we create the technology, and then the tech industry you hear about is more like the software and all that behind it. So our industry is very innovative, and it's very fast-paced. Everything's always changing, and it's historically been a very male-dominated industry.
Sure.
So that has been good in some ways, that we've had a lot of amazing male mentors, but we also need to pave the way as well for women.
Yeah. So would you consider electronics pardon the pun here, a component of the tech industry? Is it part of the tech industry?
Well, I would say maybe you could look at it as the same umbrella maybe, but it's two different industries. Our industry really creates the components and sells the components more than the tech industry is more selling the software and behind all that.
Or the devices,
innovation.
perhaps, the phones, the computers, things like that?
Yes, so we're selling components that go into, say, a computer, a phone, a refrigerator, you name it. Whatever equipment has electronics in there, there's components. And that's what our industry does, is it creates the components that give it the capability to operate.
Okay, so great. So tell us more about the Women in Electronics organization, and also about what you do professionally.
Okay, so Women in Electronics, we have our mission statement that you read, but we really want to empower women. We want to celebrate women. One of the big goals in the organization is for women to really work together collaboratively and effectively and really help each other rather than maybe have competition. Where one woman succeeds, I believe all women succeed. So we focus on internal personal development and professional development all together. So we want to celebrate each other, advocate for each other through a mentor program, develop through our leadership trainings, and empower through networking.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. So I would think, being a male-dominated industry, there would certainly be a need for an organization like Women in Electronics, right, to help support, foster, the development and the growth of the folks working in the industry. So what types of specific clients or niche markets are interested in what you do?
Well, we have many women in all aspects of the channel, we call it. So in our industry, we have manufacturers, distributors, sales reps, and we have end users. We have contract manufacturers. So there's all aspects of the channel, and there's women in all those different aspects of the channel. So we want to reach all of them. Any of the women in our industry at any level, whether they're a top executive or they're an inside salesperson or a product manager, we want to reach all women, because not everybody has access to leadership development. Many people have access to sales training, maybe product training, but they don't have access to leadership development. So usually that's the higher, the corporate people who have access to that. So we kind of feel like, well, what about everybody else? We want everyone to have equal access.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you also have another business, is that correct? Or another...
So in order to stay connected in the industry, I also work for a company called BIVAR. And what they do is anything that it's indication, lighting indication. So if you turn on a computer and there's a button and there's a light behind it, or there's medical equipment and you need to light up certain buttons on that so you can see the equipment. There's lots of different applications. Anytime you need to see something lit up to turn on, off, censoring, all that kind of thing, that is what BIVAR does. So I also work as their national sales manager to stay connected in the industry. And I think that it's been such a good synergy because our sponsors for Women in Electronics are the same distributors that I call on for BIVAR. So it's such a great synergy right now, and it keeps me very well connected in the industry.
Fantastic. Well, that makes sense. I mean, you have to walk the walk, right?
Right.
Not just talk the talk, but walk the walk, and you're certainly doing that. And how many years have you been in the electronics industry?
I hate to say, but I started probably around 93. Yes.
Okay.
So when I started in the industry, I worked my way up for about 10 years. I found my passion in distribution at that time. And then I took off for many years to be home with my kids, raise them. And how Women in Electronics started is when I came back into the industry, I went back to the executive conferences that I had always attended. Strangely enough, I went back to the same company I had worked for so many years and back to the same job. So when I went around and I started going back to the executive conferences, I noticed that I was still one of the youngest ones, and at that point I shouldn't have been, and I was still one of the few women. And so that seemed alarming to me. And it just so happened as I got back involved with the industry, all the women I met were really amazing. And so we decided to pull together a conference in 2017 where we invited 20 women to attend. And at that conference, it was just magical. And we ended up realizing that there was a real need in the industry.
Mm-hmm. So you were one of the founders of Women in Electronics organization. Okay.
Yes.
Which is actually, you don't meet too many founders of associations and, and there's certainly lots of them out there. And, given the work I do, there's tons of women's related conferences and groups and, but to actually have seen the need, have the experience of, you have a couple decades under your belt to see the need and to have the gumption to make it happen is fantastic. So,
well, thank you.
Kudos to you.
Thank you. I think it's the team behind me that really got us to the point we are now. Because when I came back, I was kind of like the no-name. And so the two women in particular that are on the executive team with me, Monica Highfill, she works for a company called Kemet, and Amy Keller, she works for Arrow. And those two have the names. And so when we started inviting different people, it was because of them, I think, that people came. So, and then because those original founding team came, from there many other came, and it was all for them. So it worked out really nicely.
Well, I'm sure you had a bit of a draw on that as well.
At the time I did not, I have to say.
So given that, it's up and running, it's been successful, you're a few years into it now, so what are your goals and aspirations for the future of Women in Electronics?
Well, we do have some pretty strong goals. Right now, we have about 200 members in the organization. We just literally launched our website. Our soft launch this week and our hard launch is coming on Friday, so we're really excited about that. But we're hoping to get more members at that point. And so we're trying to get to 1,000 within the next couple years, 3,000 within the next few years, and then we want to go global. So that's the goal. We have a lot of interest globally. We're just not ready for that at this point. We want to make sure the program's working extremely effectively before we launch that global. Yeah.
Well, that's certainly a lofty goal, and I definitely could see the need for that. So, congrats to you on that, and hopefully it'll continue progressing. So, share with the listeners, where do you go? So, given that you work in the space, you also are active in the Women Electronics. So, where do you go to stay up on the latest challenges that you come across in your industry? I mean, where do you go for information to develop and stay on the cutting edge of what's occurring?
Well, to tell you the truth, a lot of the people that we work with within the organization and around us are really on the front lines of the industry. So we really talk amongst each other. We just had a really amazing event where we were at a show in Las Vegas that's called the EDS show. And that's where all the leaders, most of the leaders from the industry come to this show. So it's the big show of the year. And we had our founding sponsors sit on a panel with us, and it was really amazing. So we had companies like Arrow, Avnet, DigiKey, Kemet, sitting on Amphenol, sitting on a panel to talk through these issues of women in leadership. And it was amazing. It was the first time ever in our industry that we've had these kind of conversations with the male leaders. And I give them so much credit. And really, we are where we are right now because our male leaders have really opened the door and are willing to listen. And I always say, you know, a good leader is somebody who listens first and then leads. Yeah. And these men showed that they're doing that. So we're super honored.
Yeah, and it's critically important, and we've touched on it a little bit in previous shows as well, that we won't get anywhere close to gender parity without men on board. So it is critically important that men, you know, serve as not only mentors, supporters, role models, but you know, help guide women and support women, and have the dialogue is the most important thing. You know, keep the dialogue up, keep the momentum, and then take action. And so, working together, you know, we'll eventually get there. But electronics has always been, you know, it was one of the typical male-dominated industries that, you know, again, so men are critically important to partner with.
Right. And in our organization, we always talk about unity. We want to unite the industry. We don't want to divide. So we really believe that the magic is when the men and the women work together collaboratively. So that's the goal. And we think that we have our male leaders are really open to that. And we have our work to do with women in electronics to develop ourselves further. Because I always believe everything starts from within. You have to focus on yourself, be the best you can be. Our last conference was Better Than Your Best, and that came from Nelson Mandela. So he said when you're fighting for equality, you have to do better than your best. And so that was the theme of our last year's conference.
I love it. Are you at liberty to share the theme of this year's conference?
Yes. So this year's theme is going to be fearless, fear-less. So for women to be empowered so that they won't fear as much. And even when they fear, they'll be willing to, you know, take that step and forward. A lot of women, what we're finding, it doesn't matter what level she is in her career, a lot of women have a lot of fear. A fear of how they're going to be judged, how they're going to be viewed. What a lot of women are perfectionists. They want to do things 100% or they don't want to do it at all. So we're trying to help women through that whole process of taking those steps forward.
Yeah. And it's okay. And I love it, by the way. The reason I asked her that is because fearless is, I think, is a great tagline for a conference. But women often, because of the perfectionism, you know, we want to do well. We want to succeed at everything, which is incredibly difficult, as we all know. But a lot of times we're afraid of that failure. Yes. And you have to be fearless because there's one acronym that I love for FAIL. Another way to think of FAIL is first attempt in learning. So if we can see failure as more of a recurring learning opportunity and not something that's so bad and horrible, because the only way we're going to succeed is by failing and by being fearless.
Yes, and we have one of our female leaders in the industry, Maria Cannon from TE, that I love and adore. She said something at our last conference that really struck me and I think helped a lot of the women. She said it was the 60-40 rule. So you should know 60% of any position you're going for, like the back of your hand. 40% you should learn. You should be okay with learning that. And I think men are more confident with embarking on a new position that maybe they don't know all of it. Women are not as confident in that. So we have to be more secure in the fact that we don't know everything and that we can learn.
Yeah, yeah. And do you have initiatives or programs within Women Electronics or discussions around that topic?
Yeah, so we have monthly trainings where I really believe there's key takeaways from every training that really help women do better. One in particular we just had was Stop Apologizing. And I found myself so much in that leadership training. And women we don't always realize how much we apologize unnecessarily. So there's trainings like that I really believe the women get a lot out of it. So our monthly trainings are a big part of what we do.
And are those in person or are they online? Or?
They're online. They're virtual. Okay. So we have women from all over the country. So we're trying to connect people virtually.
Okay.
Yes. And then we also have 16 chapters that have launched across the country, and we're growing. We're going to build more than 16, but for now we're trying to make sure that these 16 are very successful, and this is all within the last year. So we have chapter chairs where we train them every month or every quarter, on the chapter topic, and then they go and they meet as a group and they have their own meeting. So it's really exciting. We have a national chapter chair, Holly Good. She works for one of our founding sponsors, Cornell Dublier, and she leads the whole thing, and we're so far having a very successful program.
Wonderful. So Jackie, what advice would you offer for women in business today? And it's up to you if you want to focus on women in electronics or just in general, women in business.
Well, I think for me, it's a matter of showing who you are versus what you can do. And I think if you are authentic in who you are, you have credibility, you show up on time, you give your best effort, you do better than your best. I believe that you will show naturally what you can do. But I think it's more of being naturally who you are, being authentic, being genuine, and not trying to overprove yourself. Just show up authentically with a strong desire to do your best. And that's the best advice that I can give to anybody. And just know your passion. Know what instinctively inside yourself that you want to do, and go do that, and don't let people stop you. Don't let people tell you can't do it, because if I let people stop me, we wouldn't be doing Women in Electronics. We wouldn't be having this conversation. So when you have that passion, nobody can stop you.
Yeah. That's great advice. Be authentic and follow your passions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And be clear on your passions, first of all. It helps. So Jackie, how does someone get a hold of you or learn more about Women in Electronics?
Okay, so our website is womenelectronics.com. And to get in touch with me, you can email me at jackie@womenelectronics.com.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Anything else you want to add in general about women in business or women in electronics? Or
Well, I would just say for women, celebrate each other, support each other. We're all on the same page. We're all trying to accomplish the same thing. And it's exciting. It's an exciting time right now for women to be making the steps that we're making. So I say we all band together, and we also celebrate the men in our lives as well that are unifying, that we can all unify together. The magic is when we come together, because men are the big picture and the women are the fine print. We come together, we have both. So that's the goal.
I like that. I've never heard it put quite that way.
That was Sherelle. It said that at one of our conferences. So yes, and I love that, because men tend to be the headlines and the women are the fine print. So you really can't have a story without the big headline, and you can't read anything without the fine print. So really, if we come together on that and know that we complement each other, then that's where the magic happens.
Fantastic. So we've been talking today with Jackie Mattox, who is founder and president of Women in Electronics. So Jackie, thank you very much for being here. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
So, and to get in touch with me, Dr. Sean Andrews, the best way is my website, and that is at drshawnandrews.com. Dr, no period. Sean is SHAWN, and Andrews.com. I also might have social media, LinkedIn and Twitter, as well as Facebook, and I would welcome connecting with you on social as well.